welcome back for another episode of Public Opinion with your hosts, Pam and Vanetta. Vanetta is unfortunately unable to attend the beginning portion of this show because she is at a graduation. This is June and it's the graduation season. And it's so very nice to be able to know that you can attend a graduation in person and not just virtually. But it's also the season for marriage. It's the season for weddings and wedding planning and attending weddings. And there are also the women who are not getting married and who are single, but are very happy and content to be single women. And that's what the program is about this week. We have an author who is the author of a book called I'm Single, So What? And we also have some other participants who are going to come on and talk about how they are very content in being single. So let's get started and meet our participants for this week. First, we have Marsha Perkins. Marsha is a systems specialist. And then we have Tangi Poindexter. Tangi is a licensed insurance agent, managing nail tech and educator. And finally, we have Dr. Heather Burton, who is the author of the book, I'm Single, So What? She's also a speaker and an academic. So let's welcome our guests for this week. Hello and welcome so very much. And thank you all so much for agreeing to be on Public Opinion with Vanetta and I. And I'm excited to hear what your responses are to the question this week, because June is the beginning of the wedding season. And I know for a lot of single women, that can be a sad time. You know, they look or they go to a lot of weddings and they're wondering like, you know, when am I going to get married or whatever. But what you all are on to talk about is embracing being a single woman and just taking that all in and just being content and loving your life. So I am really excited to hear what all of you all have to say to the public opinion question of the week. So we're going to get started and look to see what that public opinion question is. How have you found contentment in being single? All right, so I am going to start with Marsha. And Marsha, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to answer that question. Go ahead.
Okay. One, I think you find contentment out of self-love and just enjoying your own company. Like, I'm not somebody that gets upset around the wedding season or Valentine's Day, because it's a day, but I live my life in a way where I try to practice like self-love and enjoying my life. Also, it's easier because I also have other single friends around me. Everybody's not married around me. So when you don't feel out of place when you have peers. So I think it's hard for women who are single who only have married friends. I think that can be very, very uncomfortable, but it doesn't need to be. I've been single my entire life, and it's never been a source of depression. It's never been a source of, oh, woe is me, why haven't I been chosen? And that's really a big part of our society, of women always feeling that they need to be chosen in order to validate themselves by somebody else, when a lot of times we need to just kind of choose ourselves. And that happiness, even if you're in a relationship, if you don't have two people who are happy with themselves, you don't possibly have a healthy relationship or even a happy one. So my contentment just comes with the fact that I enjoy my own company. I don't look at other people's lives, and I don't envy and think, why isn't that me? I never ask that question. And I think it's a setup question. I just kind of enjoy, I don't know, I've always considered myself a happy single person. That is always how I identify myself. I'm happily single.
All right, that was a great response. I like that. Now, Tangi, you want to go ahead and answer that?
I can agree with Marsha. Like, I enjoy spending time with myself. I am an avid reader, so I read all the time. I like to read about other people's lives and, you know, fiction and nonfiction. But I don't think that the worst part of being single or being content is when people are constantly asking you. Like
Mhm.
my aunt used to ask me all the time. And I just noticed recently that she has stopped because I have told her I was tired and I don't want to do that. I'm good the way I am
Mhm.
right now. And then when you're younger, you look at all the hurtful things that happen in relationships that you have had. Like I got stood up for prom. Um, and then you break up with a guy and you find out he treat the next girl better than he's treating you. And then they want to come back and tell you how wonderful you were because she wasn't good, whatever. But I have adjusted, and all the things that I dreamt of growing up, as far as being married and having children and all of that, it's rolled off now. It doesn't hurt anymore. I'm good. But I used to be depressed about, I hated summer. I hated to see summer come, because high school, you be outside and all your friends, is their boyfriends coming to pick them up. They going to Cedar Point or Jagger Lake or doing this or doing that, having dates. And that wasn't me. I didn't have an actual date until I was like 24 years old. So, but I've adjusted, and now I'm good. I don't think, no, because on Sunday, when I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna have me a ham sandwich for dinner. Uh, so many Sundays I say, oh, I'm glad I ain't got no husband and kids. It's good.
Okay, great. And now we're going to hear from Dr. Heather Burton. And Heather, you are the author of I'm Single, So What? And one of the reasons I wanted to have this program is because of this book. And I really am interested to hear why you wrote the book. What was the motivation for it? And first of all, just go ahead and answer the question, the public opinion question.
Oh, thank you. And thanks, Pam, and to everyone on the panel. It's great to share this conversation with you all. And I think with that question ties into the book and why the book was written. And for me, contentment comes through my relationship with Christ. And that's the only way that I find contentment. Outside of that, I've had the experience of Tangi. I've had the experience of Marsha. With Tangi, I've had the same thing, that some days there has been depression, some days there has been anxiety, some days there has been disappointment in the singleness. And so in that, the only way that I found contentment and understanding contentment, which is really the premise of I'm Single, So What, is understanding contentment from a biblical perspective, and how Paul talks about, I have learned, and no matter what state I am, therewith to be content. And so in this season of singleness, it's really understanding what it means to be content based on my relationship with Christ and knowing who I am in my relationship with Christ. And so when I think about, you asked, how did the book come about with I'm Single, So What? And it goes to a point that Tangi said, the title came from that question of, why are you single? And so from that question, it came, I'm single, so what? Like, what does it matter? Why does it always have to be an explanation when you say you're single? Because as soon as you say I'm single, then somebody wants you to provide a justification or an explanation as to why you're single. And so that's where the title came from. And I think very often people see the title and they misinterpret it to mean that I'm single and I never want to get married. I'm single, I don't care. And that's not what the title means. The title means that I'm content in this current season, but it doesn't mean that, and this is for any single woman who desires to be married. It doesn't mean that they don't want to be married, but what it does mean is I'm single, so stop asking me questions.
Right.
That's really what it means.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what we deal with as singles, and especially when you get to a certain age, it's even, I'm gonna say younger, they deal with it. Single women deal with it, but when you get to a certain age, it's the consistent thing of, well, why are you single? What's wrong? What happened? Why can't you find nobody? You not dating? You haven't met anybody? It's just a list of questions that follow.
Yeah, you know what? And I'm glad that you said that, because, and then Vanetta, you have single friends, don't you? And I think sometimes
Yes, I have lots of single friends.
Yeah, sometimes I do think that we find ourselves thinking about, well, okay, who can I hook them up with? If
Yeah.
I'm constantly, and my husband will even say, he'll be like, oh, well, you can hook artists up with so-and-so, or maybe Tangi might like, but it's maybe you all don't want to get hooked up with somebody. Maybe we just need to understand that this is who you are. And if you want to meet somebody, fine. If not, we don't have to always feel like we got to play matchmaker. Vanetta, I don't know. Do you feel like that sometimes? And she's,
Yeah.
okay.
But years ago, we watched a movie about single women, especially Black single women. And it said that we had an obligation to, when we have single friends, to think about them. And if we knew someone, to introduce them. Do you remember that movie? Artist showed us a movie.
I do remember.
And it said that we.
Yeah, and it was saying something like you as a married woman should help your single friends or something, find people.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't think that was right either. I'm like, well, just because somebody's single doesn't mean they're on the prowl,
Well, can I say this with that? Because that experience, I literally was in a restaurant and just broke out crying with my friends.
Right.
And let me tell
I agree
you why.
with you.
When you're in your 20s
Okay.
and your 30s and your married friends want to introduce you, that's fine because you have time. When you start getting 45, get in your 50s, don't do it. If you want to introduce me to a friend of yours, don't tell me about it. Have something at your house, and if we connect, we connect. But sometimes your friends love you so much that they like, oh, he's single, he's nice, and he'll be good for Tangi. Well, he's sitting on the porch retired with my father. I go to work every day. What we gonna talk about? You know what I'm saying? Don't bring me nobody broke down. And don't bring me anybody that's not good enough for you.
I
think,
I like that.
And I was gonna say, and building on what Tangi's saying, is that we also have to, as married friends, and I tell my married friends this, and there's a twofold to that hookup, is that as married friends, you have to know your friends too. And you have to know whether your friends want to be hooked up and whether they want to be in a relationship. There are some women who are perfectly fine being single and are not looking to be introduced, don't want to date, don't want to marry. But then we say, the married women, and my friends do the same thing, will take it upon themselves to say, oh, but I can hook this person up. And when I teach, women and talking about single, is that if you're a single woman and you want to be hooked up, then let your friends know that. But I'd say to the married women, if your friends haven't told you that they want you to hook them up, then stay away from the hookup game.
Yeah.
You know what? I have kind of a question.
Wait, hold on. Go ahead, Marcia. Go ahead.
I'm kind of interested in where is the mentality, because I've known this, that people who are married just do have this urge to hook up their friends. What is it within the married mentality that makes you feel that, well, you're single, you shouldn't be single? We need to do that. Because it makes me feel, because I thought about this years ago, that I think a lot of people are thinking, especially married people, when they see their single friends, are thinking there's something wrong with them, that they're broken, they're not following the path. Because the path in our society, you grow up, you get married, you have kids, you move to suburbia. And when everybody follows that path, and that's like the way the herd is going, when you have people who aren't going that way, is there some, and I'm saying because I know that you're married, Pam, so is there something in you that says, no, you need to go with us, like you need to be like us? Your otherness is uncomfortable for married people?
No, and Vanetta, you want to answer that too? Because Vanetta's married also.
No, I don't feel that that's the case at all. And sometimes I would say that maybe I want you to suffer endure the same pain I do in marriage.
Yeah, I think that's more it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I don't think that you're.
What I do think is what I feel is that as Yeah, I don't think you're broken in any way. I think you're living a different lifestyle than mine. And I wonder if you are interested in it. I don't think I automatically assume that I'm going to bring you into marriage. Because I know a lot of single women who don't desire to be married, but they may want to date.
Yeah.
And
I
there are
think
things
that's the way
about
I look at it. I
a
don't think I'm
single
trying to
woman
get
that I
people
envy
married.
your
Yeah.
freedoms, the
Right.
things that the ability.
Yeah, I'm not trying to really get people married either. I think sometimes I think it kind of goes along with we feel like maybe there's a little bit of loneliness, and that's not and I think that might be assuming, but or you just feel like maybe you may want to have somebody to go out with or something, but I think I don't even really gravitate towards that anymore. I used to some years ago kind of like think, okay, well, she's single, maybe she may want to meet so and so, but now I just kind of know my friends that are single, and I know what they want and what they don't want. And so it's kind of a growing process for everybody. But now at this age, I pretty much know my single friends that actually are, really are interested in being in a relationship, and others that are just like, like, hey, I'm happy if something comes along. But I don't think I would ever want to just set somebody up. And I think it would be more like what Tangi, what you said, just even if I felt that way, I would just maybe have them to the house. Hopefully you all will run into each other over, the charcuterie board or something. And then, then I can later say, you know what? I knew it. I'm glad that I brought them together. But yeah, Marsha, and to your point, I never really thought to think, is this offensive? Like, do you find it offensive, or do you just kind of wonder, well, why are they doing this?
You know what? It's a little bit of both and then neither, because I think people equate being single with being lonely. And some of the loneliest people I have known in my life have been married people.
Mm-hmm.
Because people think just because you have somebody sitting next to you that you're not lonely. And loneliness is a mindset. It's not necessarily proximity to people. And it's something that you carry with you internally. So I always think that people assume because you're single that you're lonely. And I've never been lonely. Like, I grew up an only child. It's just me and my mom. The pressures come externally, and they're internalized by a lot of single people. And it's like something's wrong with you. Why are you single? And that is also a geographical thing, because I'm from Cleveland. I live in Chicago now. One of the things that I like is that, do you know, within the 9 years that I've been here, nobody has ever asked me that question, because this is a city that's very easy to be single in. But in Cleveland, you would just have some guy, exactly what you said, Heather, oh, you ain't married, you ain't got no kids, and it's just like, what's up with you? And I said, well, nothing, it's just, I didn't want to get married. I didn't want any kids.
And I agree with you, Marsha, because I visit Chicago very often, and Chicago is a single navigating city. Yeah. And I think that's what happens with a lot of cities. Even I think about DC, I think about LA, I think about Chicago, is that they are single friendly. And so you don't get the questions that you get in the Cleveland area, because Cleveland is a family oriented town. So. It's very family oriented. And so it's not meant for, I'm gonna say it's not meant, but it's not designed for the single person. No. And so there's a
lot of Midwestern values.
Yeah. Which are the American family, as Marsha pointed out earlier. When you talked about the American dream, that American dream, and what society has defined as a woman's worth is that a woman grows up, she gets married, she has a child, and that defines who a woman is.
They used to get a house with a picket fence, with a white picket fence, and have 2 kids, 2.5 kids. I never understood who that 0.5 child.
Me either.
I think I might have been a 0.5 child. I'm not sure.
As a woman, as a married woman, no one has ever asked me, why did you get married? So I have a respect for what they're saying. No one has ever asked me, why did you get married? Why did you choose to have children? That has never been something someone ever said to me. So I can see where that's offensive, is why haven't you married versus why did you marry?
Mhm.
You know, that's true. No one has ever said to me, why did you get married? Why didn't you stay single and, you know, not have any kids or anything? And you're right. It's like, it's not even, I don't even know if it's some of it is a choice, I believe.
Right.
Some of it is just, it is what it is, you know, but you learn to live with what you have. And that's what you're talking about, Heather, and the Bible says that, you know, like you said, that I have, you know, Paul said, you know, I've known what it's like to be rich and not to have, and to have very little, but what he has found is to be content in whatever situation that he was in. Paul even said that it would be better for you not to get married, but if you did, it's better to marry than to burn. So he even, but he looked upon it as that's even more time to serve. You have more time to devote to the service of the Lord if you're a single person than you would have as a married person. But now, Tangi, I know you said there was a time when you wanted all of that. You know, you wanted the things that they define as the American dream. But when did you find that you actually were very just content and happy with who you are right now?
When I realized that I was seeing a guy for on and off 16 years, and I realized that I was surviving off the thought of being in a relationship, you know, and when you wake up and you know, like now, like, I called him this morning, and here it is 11 o'clock at night, he ain't called me back. You know, and it's on a Friday because I'm calling to say, hey, what you want to do this weekend, or do you want to do anything this weekend? And I don't hear from you until Sunday at 11 o'clock at night, the bewitching hours. So, and then finding out what my self-worth was, what I wanted. So then I also turned the tables, and I turned the tables in my 40s. You know, I don't want to snuggle with you. Peace out. I'm out. Okay. I bought a brand new bed. Nobody's been in it but me. And there's a reason for that. Okay. No, you know, I like to come home and eat my potato chips. So, you know, you get a orangutan on your back, you got to get that orangutan off, and then you live to fight another day.
Yeah.
But then there's the other thing. There's the other part. Do you want to date? Okay. I don't want to be in a relationship. I can date you because then I don't have any expectations. You know what I mean? But I've learned I can read you like a plain dealer now. I've gone out on dates and I'm like, and that's out. So you eliminate very quickly, and to the point that you like, I'm good. I don't want to do this no more. If it happens, it happens. You know what I mean? If I meet somebody, I meet somebody, but I'm not actively looking for anybody.
Pam and Heather, do you mind if I bring up another point with this? I mean, something that affected me within that is that also growing up, everybody in my family got married and got divorced. So I literally did not see a healthy marriage from my grandparents who got divorced like after 45 years. Wow. My grandmother said, I don't need to stay in this bad marriage, and left. And not one person, my mom also never said you need to get married, ever. She never said that. You know what she said? You said you need to get an education, get a job so you can take care of yourself. That's what I heard. So I think there's also a generational message that can be also very impactful. Like my mom was single for most of her life, and she was a happy single person. Like she dated, but she was all right with it. She was kind of like you, Tangi. She would come home, she would read. She was an avid reader, like a voracious reader. And she loved the arts, and she loved doing stuff. And she traveled by herself.
Don't you find it very sexist that they don't talk to men the same way? You know, the thought process is very different. If you're a single man, you were a player and all that, versus a woman, is something wrong with you.
Or a gigolo, or what would they always say? A single man, a bachelor, a gigolo.
OG.
Not a bad thing, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I think that goes to society too, and that goes to how we've been taught, what we've been taught, especially when we talk about gender, and we talk about, and I'll say this, we talk about the fact that this is a patriarchal, white dominated
Yeah.
society. And so in that, you're going to get those viewpoints, and we're going to be taught that way as women, that there's something wrong with multiple dating for women.
Yeah.
Men can do it, but there's something wrong with multiple dating.
Yeah.
But the other problem, and I think Tangi touched on this too, is that when people multiple date, they automatically attach labels and connotations to it.
Yeah.
If I'm going out with 4 guys, doesn't mean that I'm sleeping with 4 guys.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's the other thing that we have a tendency to do in society, is that we automatically attach a label to what somebody else's relationship is when they're single. And that puts us in another what dynamic of the single life. And but it's funny that when we can say this, like a guy can go out with 4 girls, and as you said, Pam, he's a gigolo, he's a bachelor, he got it going on because he got so many women. But a woman can go out with 4 or 5 guys and not even be sleeping with them, and she's still a hoe.
You know what? We are getting to the end of the time though that we have, and I would like to know if there's anything in closing that either one of you all would like to say. And I could start with you, Marcia, if there's anything that you want to say or impart upon other women who are single and may not be feeling as content as you are, because you certainly sound like a woman who really is happy and content in the state that you're in, but everybody is not or has not gotten to that yet. So what would you say to those women?
People don't necessarily know what that means. Heather brought up having a relationship with Christ, helped her bring that relationship with herself and how she can define herself. For me, it's just kind of grounding myself and knowing who I am and being all right with it, and not letting the external pressure, which is family and friends, because I still have it to this day. You know, why don't you date somebody? Don't worry about it. And I shut them down fast, and they get insulted by it. I say, I didn't ask you to hook me up. Don't worry about my life. Make yourself happy. But for most women, and that is, again, especially with Black women, we aren't programmed to self-care. We are programmed to care for everybody else outside of ourselves, which is that strong Black woman, that myth, which is killing us. But I really think that us turning inward and finding that center, that soul, that light within us, and settling in that and accepting it and loving it, and just enjoying your own company and not worry about it. If you're by yourself, you're not lonely. You're with yourself. How can you be lonely if you're with yourself? And that would be
that. All right. I really like that, Marcia. And Tangi, anything you want to say in regard to what that question I asked about? What would you say to people who have not yet found that contentment?
I'd say make a bucket list and get rid of some of the things.
Yeah.
You know, like a few years ago, because I love watching Say Yes to the Dress and Four Way. I love all of those shows. But if I look at it, never will I ever have that experience with my friends and family of trying on a dress. So I talked to Vanetta about it. I'm like, I think I'm just going to have a bridal, some friends, and just go try on the dress, get it out of my system, because there's so many other things that I've missed that I can never get back. You know, I can't get prom back. I can't get having kids back. Those things I can't get back. So, but I can go try on a dress just so I could have that experience. You know, just certain things. So get rid of some of those things. And the other thing I was gonna say, Pam, was when you younger and you tell people, you know, I can't wait to get married, or and you talking to a married person and they go, no, you don't. You don't want to get married. And I'm like, you've been doing it for 30 years. So if it's good enough for you, why ain't it good enough for me? So all of those kind of negatives, but just make your list and just live, be happy. Don't worry about what people say, and do you.
And finally, Heather, what do you say?
Well, I say I ditto everything that Marcia and Tangi just said. And I also say, pick up a copy of I'm Single, So What? Because in I'm Single, So What, exactly what Marcia talked about, exactly what Tangi talked about, I touch on in the book, of really, as Marsha pointed out, understanding your identity and not defining yourself in material things, not defining yourself in your family. And so there's a whole chapter dedicated to identity and understanding who you are. And then there's a goal section that talks about setting goals, do these things, like Tangi talked about the whole bucket list, is doing things on your bucket list. And I'm laughing, Tangi, with you trying on a wedding gown. I've modeled for years. And so I used to do bridal shows all the time. And that is the one thing that I used to even say in my 20s, 30s, I don't have to put on another wedding dress as long as I breathe, even when I get married, because of that experience. But it is an experience that I understand of wanting to have. But you do that on your bucket list. You try different things. Like now, one of the last things that's really on my bucket list is skydiving. Outside of that, I pretty much checked off most things on my bucket list. And as Marsha said, that traveling by yourself, I will go on vacation by myself. I have what I call my me-cation, and I take 4 or 5 days away by myself, usually to an undisclosed location, because I don't want anybody bothering me, because that's why it's called a me-cation, because it's for me. And just doing that. So I really suggest picking up a copy of I'm Single, So What, because the last chapter allows you to work your way to contentment. So you can be like Marsha. And because as I said, I still have my good days and bad days. There are some days that I'm like, okay, Lord, you really ain't gonna give me no husband. This is how we playing this game.
That's all right. And then Vanetta, for us as married women, what we have to do always is just continue to just be the friends that we have been to all of our sister friends, whether they're single or married. And it's marriage doesn't define a woman. And we have to be mindful of that as married women, not to make a single woman feel like she's missing out, or even make it feel like negative, like, oh, you don't want to have this. Like, it's whatever your life is the life that you have. And you have to be happy and content in that life. But thank you all so very, very much. Well, I certainly hope that you have enjoyed that segment as much as I did. I enjoyed listening to all of the women and how they are blooming where they have been planted, how they are just enjoying life and being content in whatever state that they're in. And I also have learned that as a married woman, that we cannot go around just thinking that we have an obligation to hook up every single friend that we have with somebody, and just allowing people to just enjoy life right where they are. So until next time, for another episode of Public Opinion, I'll see you then. And just remember, everybody's entitled to their own opinion.